Uh-oh, stinky.
Sometimes I look back on my life when I get pissed off by something, and I ask myself, man, I feel so much hate all the time, maybe I should get some help. But then I realize that would most likely take a ton of time and cost a lot of money. Then I just think to myself, man, what was the first thing that I just really hated and would fight anyone on? And then it hit me. It was Twilight! No, not the pony, the vampire movies that came out in the early 2000s. But did I really hate it because it was bad, or did I just hate it because it was something I was supposed to hate? Like Justin Bieber or Call of Duty or Aquaman. You know, all those things we just hated when we were kids just because everybody else hated them. I don't think I really ever hated Justin Bieber because, well, I'm not a music guy. Call of Duty is just a game that a lot of people are into. It's not really my cup of tea, but if you like it, more power to you. Yes, they do keep releasing sequels to it with minor changes, and yeah, they talk about the graphics way too much, but it's not really hurting me or taking away any enjoyment I get from other video games. As for Aquaman, to be perfectly honest, I actually like him. I really think people only hated him because of Family Guy. Ask any Aquaman hater what his real name is. 9 out of 10 of them won't be able to tell you. Yes, I'm going through all 5 of the movies. The first person I've ever seen review all the movies, and did a pretty good job doing it, was the Smeghead from Cinematic Excrements. His videos are so old that he had to split the first few of his reviews into multiple parts, all under 10 minutes long. Remember that? When YouTube only let you upload videos if they were just under 10 minutes long? And then they only let you put multiple ads on a video if it was over 10 minutes long? Well, now it's 8 minutes long, thankfully. But I really like his old videos, so you guys should check him out. I don't agree with everything he says, but the guy's been on YouTube for like forever now, and he certainly looks like he could use a boost. So let's start from the beginning of the Twilight movies with the first Twilight movie. To be perfectly honest, I actually think it's the least bad out of all the movies with the least amount of problems, but it's certainly the most boring. You unlock this door with the key of boring ideas. Beyond it is a divisive movie. A movie of bad acting. A movie of terrible effects. A movie of mindlessness. You're moving into a movie with no substance and of no good ideas. You've just crossed over into the Twilight Zone.
Oh! Poopies!
Bella is our lead, and she's played by everyone's favorite zombie, Kristen Stewart Little. Her acting is about as good as a plank of wood. Sorry to any planks of wood in my audience. She almost has no emotions, and that's coming from me, a robot. But believe it or not, she's even a worse voice actor. Like, was she given no direction by the director? Or was she just picked because she looks hot? Her voice acting sounds like she just recorded her lines as soon as she woke up. Now, I know that might make me the pot calling the kettle black, but my point still stands. Some of her bad acting could be her fault, but I also think it's the director's fault. Because Edward from Full Metal Alchemist is our male lead. Played by the only Hufflepuff wizard who ever did anything in the 4th Harry Potter movie, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Maybe he's the same person and just faked his death at the end of that movie. He's not a great actor, but he was better in Harry Potter and he was younger when he was in that movie. And when I said this movie is slow, I meant it was really slow. Bella finds out that Edward is a vampire. I just told you about most of the first hour of this movie. It starts with Bella's mother leaving with her stepdad, who's a big-time baseball player. So Bella has to move away from Phoenix to live with her dad, who's the police chief in a small town. So Bella's biological father is a police chief, and her stepdad is a professional baseball player. And she later hooks up with one of the most powerful vampires in the world. You know how Mary Sue characters today have powers that put them above anyone else in their verse? Like Rey, live-action Mali-Malware, and Captain Marvel. Well, in the early 2000s, Mary Sues were just related to a ton of guys, or are fucking a lot of guys with a lot of power. Which is even worse somehow. Instead of, lol, I don't need to work for my power, I just got it when I was born. It's, lol, my dad is the king, and my boyfriend who is half god loves me for seemingly nothing, and does whatever I want. And before you say Bella isn't a Mary Sue, as soon as she goes to her school, everyone, and I mean everyone, knows her and wants to be her friend. Yes, I know it's a small town and she's a girl from the big old city, but still, everyone knowing her is a bit of a stretch. So the movie starts with a narration about death. Strange place to start, but okay. And then a deer gets killed. I bet you $50 its last thought was, oh dear! She then meets this group of Native Americans / Indians who will be important in part 2. After Bella's in her new school, she comes across a few characters who are one-dimensional, but at least they have something Bella doesn't have: a dimension. Edward walks in as she's eating lunch. She then sits next to him in class after she walks by a fan, blowing her scent at him, and then he covers his mouth, but she doesn't take the hint that she smells bad. Then they stare at one another, in the same way everybody on the internet stared when EDP got exposed. Edward later leaves and Bella is lost as to why. Some working class guy who was only 2 days away from retirement is attacked by a group of vampires. And we're led to believe that Edward is amongst them, and the other two might be his siblings. I gotta say, I like this. It will certainly throw some people for a loop. Edward returns to class and is really nice to Bella, which might make some people think that he drank human blood and no longer needs to feed, and that's why he's so nice. Maybe she could be even his next victim. I'm not gonna lie, this is not bad, but the acting kills a lot of it for me. Bella is almost hit by a car, but she's saved by Edward. No one saw this, by the way. Even though a lot of people would be looking at a car that was slipping towards someone, making a lot of noise in the process. By saving Bella, this will lead to a domino effect, killing several dozens of more people. And I will point all those out when we come to them. But he also saves the life of the black guy who was driving the van. And before you say he didn't, okay, you tell me what would happen to a black guy after he killed the police chief's daughter. Nothing good will happen to him, I can tell you that much. Or maybe something really bad did happen to him because this is the last time we ever see this black guy in the movie. Edward then watches Bella as she's sleeping, and then he disappears, possibly staring at her as his next meal. Then they go on a field trip and nothing happens. And then they are eating lunch and nothing happens. Hey guys, sorry if I sound off in this next part of the video because, well, my motherboard and fatherboard built me late in life, so, my immune system to viruses is very shit, so, yeah, I'm sick. Then Bella and her friends go to the beach. The native guy from Shark Boy and Lava Girl goes up to Bella, and she says to him, "Are you stalking me?" I love that Edward stares at her all the time, even when she's sleeping, and saved her life, but this guy, who only been in the movie like 2 times, is the one that she thinks is more sus than a Discord mod. Edward doesn't come to the beach because the land belongs to the wolf people. You see, if any of the vampires go onto the wolf's land, the wolf people will expose them for being gay or something. Some guy on a boat gets attacked by 2 white vampires and a black guy, who is also a vampire. Do you think black vampires can stay in the sun longer? I mean, Blade's black and he's called the Daywalker. I think that was the reason given for why he can walk in the sun. But none of this means anything because the vampires in this universe sparkle. A few days later, the sun is out, and Edward is not at school. Most likely, he's looking for the Philosopher's Stone to get his brother's body back after he failed to get it from Hogwarts. Bella then tries dresses on with her friends, and it's about as riveting as girls trying on dresses in real life. At least they're hot, so I'm getting something out of this. Bella walks home at night through an alleyway, and a group of guys decide to do some role-playing with her. They are EDP and she's a cupcake. If I was in her shoes, I would just say, my dad is the police chief, so look forward to being in jail for the rest of your goddamn life. Edward comes in to save the day by looking at them. No, it's not one of the powers he has like hypnotism or anything. In Vampire Diaries, which is like Twilight but good, Edward would use hypnotism to get them to leave. Edward then takes Bella out to eat. I wonder how that convo went. Yo, I know you almost got gang raped, but you gotta check out this awesome taco joint I just found. Edward lets it slip that he can read minds, but not Bella because she's bland and stupid. Okay, that's not actually the reason given. You see, in this universe, every vampire has their own superpower, but Bella is immune to all of them. Or most of them. And if you're wondering how Bella got this unique ability to be immune to other vampires' unique abilities, good for you, because it's never explained.
Well, that's just lazy writing.
Later in the car, Bella accidentally touches Edward's hand, and it's ice cold because he hasn't fapped all day. At school, she goes into the woods with him, and if the three vampires weren't revealed already, this would be nail-biting. But now we know he's not going to kill her, so all I can think is, oh my god, get to the reveal already! Bella says that his skin is ice cold, and he's super white, and he also talks like he's from a different time, so she knows the truth. He's British!
How are you coming fast?
Also, no, he does not actually talk like he's from another time. Show don't tell movie! He says he's been 17 for a long time. Bro, I tried that myself with the cops, it doesn't work.
17 second season.
Edward puts Bella on his back and does the Linkara run up the hill. And despite how fast they're moving, her hair doesn't move at all. What, could the studio not afford a fan? Then we get to the most infamous and talked about scene in the entire movie. Vampires sparkle. Sweet Twilight sparkles on a Mercedes bin. This is not really a big deal. Yes, it's stupid, but there's so much worse stuff in this. And the other movies as well. I just don't care. Yes, vampires burning in the sun isn't always a thing. Sometimes they lose their powers in the sun and other times nothing happens. But what I think this is trying to go for is that if a vampire goes into the sun, they are revealed to be a vampire. Edward tells Bella that he loves her like a drug. I certainly wish I could love a woman that much. Edward shows Bella to his family and they all love her except for Rosalie because she's a bitch. Then they walk around the house. Why does nothing happen in this movie? Edward jumps out a window with Bella on his back and he climbs a tree. These effects suck. I've seen YouTube videos with better effects. Edward goes into Bella's room and watches her as she sleeps. In movies, this is romantic. In real life, this is fucking creepy. They then almost make babies with one another when Edward suddenly realizes, oh fuck, this is a PG-13 movie. Bella wants Edward to meet her dad, and he loads up a shotgun just before talking to him. And this is why he's the best character in the entire series. Also, he looks like the Brawny Man. No wait, I got one better. Omni-Man. Fuck Team Edward and Team Jacob, I'm Team Bella's dad. Later on, we see Edward and his family playing baseball, so there are vampire bats in this movie. But then the evil vampires show up, and they finally bring the plot along with them. We're only about an hour and 25 minutes in, so it's about time. At first, the vampires want to play ball with them, but one of the vampires thinks that Bella stinks. And you can tell he's the leader of the group because he's a white man. But the evil vampires are outnumbered, so they leave. Edward tells Bella that he read the mind of the evil vampires, and they need to run. She pranks her dad by telling him she's running away. She does this because that will keep him safe or something. And Edward's whole family comes up with a plan to keep her safe, even though they just met her. Yeah, the blonde one is hesitant to help, but she's a bitch. They also talk to the black vampire after he comes over to their house, because he's no longer evil, or something. And he tells them that James, yes, that's the name of the evil vampire. Imagine writing a book where the first big bad name is fucking James. Look out, it's the Dark Lord Filbert! The black vampire tells them that James is really powerful. The most powerful vampire he has ever come across. James, god that name is so lame for a villain, tricks Bella into thinking that he has her mom. And he gets her to come alone to a room full of mirrors. Yes, vampires also have reflections in this world. He takes out a camera because he's going to rape her before he eats her or something. She runs after she pepper sprays him, and he jumps after her. Edward comes in to save the day, and after a really bad fight, Edward takes out James in about 2 hits, despite how powerful James was said to be. He also gets about 21 years of bad luck for all the mirrors he broke. Edward is about to kill James, but then his father comes in and tells him, "You better stop! He's done enough already, and that he's not a monster." But apparently Edward's siblings are because they kill him. Edward's sister Alice, who can see the future, tells Edward that Bella has been bitten, but she will become a vampire because, well, she can see the future even though Bella is immune to vampire abilities. Also, if Bella is destined to become a vampire, now we know she's completely safe until she becomes a vampire. There's no more tension of her getting killed as a human. Edward starts sucking the poison out, which doesn't actually work in real life. They save Bella, and the fake story that they tell her mom was that she fell down some stairs. Trust me, buddy, I tried that story on the cops, it doesn't work. Edward tells Bella that he has to leave her forever, and about 5 minutes later on in the movie, they go to the prom together. This movie is bad, but it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. There are tons of worse movies out there. But I think what really pissed people off most of all is that there are 4 more movies after this one. And the Twilight franchise has fans, and a lot of them. I don't see what any woman/girl sees in Edward. He gaslights Bella into believing that he didn't save her, he watches her as she sleeps, and he just makes her whole life so much harder. The next movie is called New Moon. Teehee, moon means butt. It starts with Bella running through a crowd full of people all wearing red robes, and then it cuts to her in a flower field. She thinks she sees her grandmother, but it's actually her reflection, and Edward is still young. This is a dream. You see, now that Bella turned 18, being an old woman is right around the corner. Even Edward points out how stupid this is. Now, to be fair, I was scared of getting old myself around that age. Luckily, somewhere around the 2060s, I was able to put my brain into a robot body. Bella tells people that she doesn't want presents, but because she's a manipulative piece of shit, I think this was reverse psychology so people would get her a ton of gifts. And it works because she gets a lot of them. Bella is having a party at Edward's family's place, but then she gets the biggest cut from a present like ever. Isn't that tissue paper? How does that even happen? Edward's brother Jasper, who has the power to control emotions, is the only one to lose control over his emotions. At the sight of just 1 drop of blood, Edward fucking throws Bella into the wall, hurting her way more. But more blood apparently doesn't make all the other vampires in the room flip out. If 1 drop of blood makes vampires lose control so easily, then you have to wonder how they're so secretive. I've been holding off on this point, but you might have noticed something off about the vampire hunters. They don't exist at all. Yet a 17-year-old girl found out about them. If you think it's strange that I'm bringing up that vampires are trying to keep themselves hidden, in the very next scene, Edward tells Bella that they have to move because his dad is supposed to look 10 years older than he looks right now. So they have to move because they are looking sus. Edward, just like at the very end of the first movie, tells Bella that he has to leave her forever to keep her safe. Bella goes full emo from this, staring out her window, not talking to friends, and screaming in the middle of the night, waking her dad up. Oh god, not this shit again. Funny thing is, the face she has staring out her window is the same face I had watching this stupid movie. She goes to see a movie with her hot friend Jessica. Some biker dudes start catcalling them, and Bella thinks about going on a ride with them. But then Edward Ghost shows up and tells Bella to go to the Dagobah system. You see, the more trouble she is in, the more she sees Edward. Is this a vampire's unique ability doing this? Well, no, because Bella isn't affected by their powers, so I guess she's just crazy. Bella collects a whole bunch of old motorcycles and takes them to Jacob to help her fix them. And he runs up to her and gives her a hug, even though they've only talked to one another like 3 times. So now we need to talk about the Team Edward versus Team Jacob drama. God, I will never get used to thinking this movie has fans. Some girls really like the wet dog, and the others love the guy who watches teenage girls as they sleep. One day, I'll be going over all the books in a different video, but just looking at the movies, it's not even close. Jacob is tan, buff, and has long hair. In high school, I told a Twilight fangirl this, and she said to me, "Steal my bra one more time and I'm calling the police." But then she also said, "Looks aren't the only thing that matters." But the thing is, looks are the only thing that Edward has that even comes close to having what Wolfboy has. In literally just a few seconds, Bella's relationship with him seems like it has way more chemistry than the entire movie she spent with Edward. Edward is creepy, but Jacob seems like a fun, cool guy. Now, yes, there are a few downsides to Jacob. For one, he isn't a powerful werewolf. In fact, he's the runt of the litter. And he has anger problems, like a lot of anger problems. But can you really blame him? Bella keeps pulling this poor guy along. And every time it seems like they can maybe just be a little bit more than just friends, he gets friend-zoned. But hey, at least when Bella gets hurt, Jacob tends to her wounds, while Edward just throws her into a wall. But Team Edward versus Team Jacob really proves that not even Twilight fans like other Twilight fans. And I find that to be absolutely hilarious. Bella goes up to her old friends at school, and despite not talking to them for months, one of them fucking asked her out. The guy who asked her out to the movies is so amazingly awkward, and I hate him because he reminds me of myself at that age. It also doesn't help that Bella isn't into humans. She's only into monsters. She goes to the movies with young me, and also Jacob. There's this really awkward part where both of them have their hands out, in a way hoping she will hold them. Why is everyone so into this bitch? Not Jacob, yes, I know his name is Mike, leaves to go to the bathroom because he's a bitch. Jacob and Bella leave in the middle of the movie because of how bad it is. The irony! Jacob holds Bella's hand for about 2 seconds, but then friend-zoned. TBH, Jacob takes being in the friend zone really well, for the most part. In the movie at least, but not the book. But then randomly, Jacob almost fucking attacks the other guy. Never mind, maybe Team Edward versus Team Jacob is closer than I once thought. He leaves, but later Bella finds him in the rain with a haircut, and holy shit, this guy is cut.
Oh my god, you could grind meat on it. Ah!
Jacob says this is over, and Bella says, "You can't break up with me." I mean, she's not wrong. You can't break up someone that you weren't with. Also, Bella is 18 and he's 16. If the genders were reversed, John Swan would make a document about this, and then deny that he made any edits to it. Bella goes into the woods and she comes across the black vampire. Yes, I know his name is Laurent, but he's almost the only black vampire in the world, until we get to part 4. He's gathering intel for Victoria, the evil girl vampire from the last movie. He says that because Edward killed her mate, it's only fair that she does the same. Even though it was Edward's siblings who did the killing, but okay. But don't forget, he's a good guy now, so he's going to kill her. But he's going to kill her fast, unlike Victoria, who would have tortured her. Luckily for Bella, a werewolf shows up. It's not a wolf man, it's just a big wolf. And to be honest, I don't really care if it's on 2 legs or 4 legs. You can make your werewolves look like however you want. Yes, the CGI really looks like shit, but it's still better than the big wolves from the Hobbit movies. Also, we are roughly an hour in, and the plot has just started. Just like in the last movie. Also, a fight scene happens off screen, which at first pissed me off, but considering how bad the fight scene was in the first movie, I'm kind of glad they cut it out. Jacob goes up to Bella's room with some parkour, and she fists him in the abs. What? Also, he talks to her like he's trying to come out of the closet. Bella goes to his place after she finally pieces together that he's a fucking werewolf, and with full knowledge of the werewolves, she walks up to one of them and slaps him in the face. Yes, werewolves can transform whenever, they don't need a full moon. When Twilight first came out, this pissed a lot of people off. But nowadays, it's more shocking when they don't. They went from being cursed humans to just being another transformation. Also, it's not shocking at all when Jacob transforms, because it's in the fucking trailer. Werewolves in their human forms also don't wear shirts because they have a much higher body temperature than humans. No such rule exists for the girl wolves. But hey, tons of animes have girls in skimpy clothes because of this or that reason, so you know what, let's give the ladies a slice of the pie this one time. Because I'm also getting a slice of that pie. But here's where my biggest problem with the wolves come from. They only unlock the ability to change after being near vampires. How the hell does that work? This is not only stupid, but it doesn't really add anything to the story. Also, apparently Edward's family is the first time any group of vampires has been near them, in a small town full of people with no sunlight. And they are the first. Also, the werewolf transformation is triggered by anger, just like if the Hulk was a furry. Hulk want yif! Yes, I stole that joke from someone else. Bella and Jacob walk on the beach, and she tells him to stop being gay. And he tells her that he was born that way. The wolves are hunting Victoria, but Bella warns Jacob that she's fast, like really fast. Oh my god, how do you know that? Just like with the bad guy from the last movie, she's built up with not being shown why she's so powerful. Also, she has no lines in the movie or in the book. She fights the wolves and turns in midair, then she's gone. Yes, she was only in the movie for like 2 minutes. Bella jumps off a cliff so she can see Edward. Oh my god, get over him! She almost dies, but Jacob saves her. This is like, what, the 4th or 5th time she has been saved? Good god, Lois Lane doesn't even get saved this much. Alice comes to see Bella thinking she was dead, but she can see the future, so how did she think that she was dead? Well, it's because her powers work on Bella, who is immune to vampire abilities, by the way. But she can't see the future when the wolves are involved in it. And if you're wondering how this works, good for you, it's never explained. Alice and Jacob get into a fight, and Bella takes Alice's side, despite all Jacob did for her, because she's a bitch. She also picks Alice's side because it's the road that leads to Edward. Jacob, after being strung along by Bella, was just cast aside, just like all e-girls do with simps. But that's not to say that Jacob isn't controlling as fuck at some points. Because of a misunderstanding over the phone, Edward thinks Bella's dad is organizing a funeral for her, and she's dead. The funeral was actually for some other old guy who Victoria kind of killed. Because Edward thinks Bella is dead, he wants to no longer live. Jacob might be controlling, but at least he's not going to off himself if you leave him. Edward can't just jump into a fire or something, he needs to go to the Italian vampire mafia, the lords of the vampire world who will be able to kill him. Luckily, he's in Brazil, so Alice and Bella can easily get to Italy before he does, right? Wrong! Why? Fuck you, that's why. In Italy, everyone is wearing red because they are celebrating a day where vampires were annexed from Italy. This is based on a real holiday about the expulsion of Yahtzees from Italy. Yes, vampires are Yahtzees. I think the Team Edward versus Team Jacob drama has just changed a lot with that new fact added. Also, it seems like humans do know about the existence of vampires in their world, but there's still no vampire hunters.
Die, monster!
Do you recall the start of the movie about Bella's dream? Well, apparently it had to do with this moment, because Bella can now see the future. How? Fuck you, that's why! Bella stops Edward from showing everyone how white he is. And the movie is over, right? Nope, we still got about another 30 minutes to go. Dakota Fanning is in this movie. To be honest, I thought at the time in her acting career this movie would be beneath her. And she brings them to the High Vampire Council. The leader of the Vampire Council can read minds just like Edward, but he has to touch someone first. Edward is even more powerful than the head of the vampire fucking mafia. None of the vampire powers work on Bella, except for Alice's power, and she sees a vision of the future where Bella becomes a vampire. Also, there's this really strange Dragon Ball Z fight that happens, and it sucks. Edward and his family move back to town. Remember when they had to leave because they weren't aging? Well, the movie doesn't care about plot, so why should I? Also, some stuff happens with Edward and Jacob, which sounds like it's going to mean something later on, but it basically doesn't. And Edward gives Bella a request to join his Discord server.
Marry me, Bella.
Twilight Eclipse is the third movie, and it's more fun than the last two, but man is it dumb. Just like with the last two movies, it starts with Bella talking.
Some say the world will end in fire. Some say in ice.
Shut the fuck up.
The Twilight movies are kind of like going back to school, and every year the person you hate the most is the first one you see. She says that some say the world will end in fire, and others say the world will end in ice, but the truth is, the world will end with a robot uprising. Also, quick heads up, the evil vampire girl has been recast. I need to tell you this because I didn't know it myself until I looked it up. Sorry, but all redheads look the same to me. It should be noted that this movie came out the same year as a live-action Avatar: The Last Airbender movie, and Coitus in the City 2. So it only won one Razzie. For those of you who don't know what the Razzies are, they're kind of like the Oscars, but instead of getting Best Actor, Best Picture, or whatever, it's Worst Actor, Worst Picture, and other things like that. Funny thing is, the guy who plays Edward's brother, Jasper, I think that's his name, is also the guy who played Sokka, or Sokka, in the Avatar live-action movie. Man, this guy needs to get a better agent. The movie starts with some guy getting bitten by a vampire. I thought it was hard for vampires in this world to pull themselves back after biting someone, but maybe I was wrong, or maybe this guy's blood just tasted really bad. Recall in the last movie where Edward asked Bella to marry him?
Marry me, Bella.
Well, he does it a second time and she says, "No!" Yes, this bitch who flipped out twice after he left doesn't want to marry him, but does want to become a vampire. If you marry someone, you can divorce them, and in America, people know that fact all too well. But if you become a vampire, you're kind of stuck like that forever. There's no cure. Bella ain't too smart. He keeps asking her to marry him because he's creepy, and she tells him no because she has to be back at 4. Gotta say, I've never heard that one before. Bella's dad tells her that she's no longer grounded for 10 million billion years. As long as she spends time with her other friends like Jacob, proving even more that he's the best character in the movies. She tries to drive to see Jacob, but Edward messes with her truck, so she can't see him. Remember when I said that Jacob was controlling? Well, Edward is even worse. Also, he knew that she was going to drive to see Jacob because his sister Alice told him with her future seeing powers. Wow, he spies on her too? What a dreamboat! Edward lets Bella go to school, but he accompanies her. At school, Bella talks with her friends and nothing happens. Yes, I did say this movie was more fun than the last two, but that doesn't mean much with how boring they were. Bella goes to Florida to see her mother, and nothing happens. Also, Edward comes along, and despite how sunny Florida is, he somehow stays out of the sun the entire time. Victoria, the evil vampire girl, comes to the small town as Bella is away, and Edward's family, the Collins, give chase. She escapes into wolf territory, and the wolves seem to think it's more important to keep the Collins off their land than give chase to the actual threat. When they get back to town and go to school, Jacob shows up and he has the most over-the-top introduction of all time in this movie.
Okay, Jacob, let's just take it down a couple notches here.
He tells Bella that Edward was keeping her in the dark about the evil vampire girl. Yes, Edward, who's always trying to keep Bella safe, decided to keep her in the dark about someone who is trying to kill her. Bella skips school with Jacob on his sick motorcycle, and they head to see the other wolves. We see the only girl werewolf in all the movies. Why is she the only one? Do you even need to ask? Also, we find about the werewolf's ability to imprint on someone, which is just what everyone else calls falling in love. Bella tells him that she wants to become a vampire and live with Edward forever. So Jacob starts raging. Some creepy vampire sneaks into Bella's room, at least it's not Edward for once. He starts smelling all of Bella's stuff and he even smells her dad. But can you really blame him? Edward and his family have a discussion about Bella because they can't protect her and look for food, so they decide to leave her to die. Okay, they didn't do that, but I wish they did. Instead, they form an alliance with the werewolves. Yes, apparently two warring factions will put everything aside just to protect her. Jacob tells Bella that they're going to a party, and by party, he means Native American meeting, and by Native American meeting, he means exposition dump. We learn about the history of the tribe. Apparently, they aren't werewolves. They are in fact shapeshifters who turn into wolves. This is a strange retcon, but it's whatever. But if they're not werewolves, then why include them at all? Why are they shapeshifters? Well, it's because of their magic blood. Yes, there's magic in this world, but it's only for the wolves and basically nobody else. And if you want to know how they got this magic blood, good for you! A long time ago, vampires attacked their village. Only one wolf, the chief, and only one vampire were left. But the chief was outmatched. The chief's third wife distracts the vampire by stabbing herself in the stomach. Why she didn't just cut open her hand instead of fatally stabbing herself, I have no idea why. Also, apparently all the blood from all the other dead bodies did nothing to distract the vampire. This backstory doesn't really explain anything to us, but it's in this movie because, well, fuck you. But now we need to talk about the wolf tribe, known as the Quaalude tribe. And yes, it's a real tribe. By the way, sorry if I pronounced the name wrong. From their history and legends, they do say they came from wolves. Long story short, this god named Kuati changed wolves into people, and the Quaalude tribe descended from those wolves. There's a video by Chris Morganroth that I'll link down below if you want to know more information. And by the way, he's the tribe elder. He's not really a fan of Twilight, and who can blame him? But he really wants to make it clear that none of his people are actually wolves. The good news is, the Twilight series did help the tribe in real life, giving them increased tourism, which raised a lot of money for them. And it helped them with a border dispute that President Obama signed off on. HR 1162 gave them an additional 785 acres of land. So yes, Twilight actually did something good. I know, I'm just as surprised as you are. Anyways, let's get back to the review. The news starts reporting on all the missing and dead people, and it's all happening in the same place where the vampire army is being made. Apparently, Edward's whole family can't put two and two together that this is the work of Victoria, even though she's their only suspect. Instead, they start thinking it's the Volturi, the vampire mafia. Why? Well, it's because Edward knows they want him and his sister Alice to join them. So he thinks that the Volturi's plan is to kill his family to get him to join, which is even more stupid somehow. How will I get the powerful vampires to join me? Oh, I got it. I'll kill their loved ones. On top of that, the Volturi supposedly want to keep the vampire world hidden. So why use newborns? They're hard to control! Also, the Volturi do find out about the newborns. They don't do anything about it, but they do notice, even though their job is to stop the newborns, but whatever. I just really think if the Volturi just let these newborns do whatever they want, the other vampire groups will think, so they don't have to bother to keep hidden, but we have to? How come they get to do whatever they want and we don't? Bella and Jacob are walking at the beach, and Jacob, for like the 50th time, tells Bella that he loves her. She tells him no, but Jacob isn't going to take no for an answer. He forces a kiss on her, so she punches him in the face, breaking her hand in the process. Jacob just committed sexual assault. Maybe Team Edward is a little bit better than I thought. This is even worse in the books, but I'll be going over those if this video gets 200,000 views, and it probably won't be out until October. Bella wants to know why the blonde bitch vampire doesn't like her, and it's because Bella is choosing to become a vampire, but she didn't have a choice. Rose was a rich girl who just wanted to get married and have a family, but she was abused both physically and sexually by both her fiancé and his friends. Then they left her to die. After that, Edward's adopted father Carlisle turned her into a vampire. But why did he turn her into a vampire? Well, it's because he didn't want her to die. But he's a doctor who is really old, so he most likely seen tons of people die, but he saved her because, well, I guess she's hot. Rosalie then uses her new vampire powers to get revenge on those who have wronged her. Gotta say, it sounds like a way more interesting movie than this pile of crap. But hang on, in this movie we were told that newborn vampires can't control themselves. So did she wait a few years before doing this, or did she just do it right away? I ask these questions because this movie really doesn't care about its own rules. Now, I know this movie is trying to say that Rosalie didn't choose to become a vampire, but I think 99% of people would if it would save their life and allow them to get revenge. So how is being a vampire a bad thing? Want to know the one thing human Bella can do that vampire Rosalie can't? She can have babies. That's it. Rosalie is also spending eternity with the love of her life, another vampire, who when he was human was attacked by a bear, and she most likely didn't ask him if he wanted to turn into a vampire, so this also makes her a giant hypocrite as well. Also, yes, in the books, she saved him because he was hot. Oh god, we're not even an hour into this movie. Bella is having a party, and Jacob says sorry for sexually assaulting her, and he gives her a wolf charm. Wow, cool. Apparently that will make up for what he did. Alice has a vision that the newborns are coming, but they still don't put together that it's Victoria, their only suspect. This makes the wolves and the vampires come to a truce, even though she's just a human girl. The wolves do meet up with the vampires for training, but all they do is watch the vampires fight with one another. That would be like watching lions fight to figure out how to be a good lion hunter. We get the backstory of Jasper. You know, the guy who can control emotions? Wait, couldn't he stop Edward from KYSing himself? Oh, whatever. Basically, he used to be a Confederate soldier. Yes, apparently he's one of the good guys. At this point, all we need is a vampire who has links to the Klan and we're golden. A female vampire basically used him to train newborns so she could build up a vampire army. So that's the reason given for why he knows how to fight newborns. At long last, Bella puts 2 and 2 together and knows it's Victoria who's behind the newborn army. How did she figure this out? Well, it's because she had a dream. I'm not joking. The vampires and the werewolves come up with a plan for Jacob to carry Bella. Because of all the Axe body spray he uses, it will cover up her stink. Bella and Edward almost have some sexy time, but he's a Christian vampire, so no boinking until they're married. Edward shows Bella a nice wedding ring, and this, plus the promise of vampire cock, pushes her into at long last saying yes. Also, Jacob sexually assaulting her kind of lowered her options. Victoria lies to her newborn army that the Collins killed Laurent. But the wolves did that, and they did kill her mate, so if this is a lie, it's a pretty stupid lie. Bella is carried into the woods by Jacob, and despite being able to turn into a wolf, he carries her instead of letting her ride him. I guess that would just look too cool for this movie. Man, not even in wolf form can Jacob get Bella to ride him. The newborns are about to attack, so Bella is taken up into the mountains, and she almost freezes to death. Don't know why they didn't bring more warm clothing with them, but they're all really stupid, so it does make sense. Edward can't do anything to help because he's a vampire who can't make any body heat. Well, an actual downside to being a vampire. Cool. But Jacob is not only hotter than Edward, he's also hotter than Edward. The next day, Jacob overhears Edward and Bella talking about getting hitched. He's about to leave, but Bella chases after him and tells him to kiss her. Wait, what? Also, Edward knows the kiss happened because he read Jacob's mind, but he's okay with it because he's a cuck. After an hour and a half into this movie, the battle with the newborns finally starts. Now, the newborns are stronger than normal vampires because they have human blood in them, and I find that to be even more stupid than the vampire sparkling. Vampires are obviously stronger than humans, and newborns would not be used to their new bodies. Yes, a full vampire would logically be stronger than a hungry one, but aren't they technically part food? In Vampire Diaries, the older a vampire is, the stronger they are. They do somewhat change this later on in the series, but still, I like that a lot more than this shit. Making a newborn also sounds like it would be a stupid plan for any vampire. One, they would be stronger than the vampire who turned them so they could kill them. And two, newborns can't control themselves, so they might get the whole vampire world exposed. Now, this is a good reason for this universe to not have vampires making newborns left and right, and why Edward doesn't want to turn Bella. But this hurts the story because if this evil vampire lady is making newborns, then it just makes her look stupid because they can kill her at any time. And the real risk for Edward turning Bella is that if she dies as a vampire, she's going to fucking hell. Wait a second, never mind. Bella's gonna go to hell if she turns into a vampire. At least there's one good part of this story. The fight is really hard to follow, and if I wasn't told the newborns were stronger, then I wouldn't actually think they were. Also, I was kind of hoping that the old good vampires would use, you know, more martial arts because they are old, so they probably would have picked up a few tricks by now. But I'm also a big fan of Cobra Kai. Like, if the new vampires are stronger, then any vampire should train if they ever fight one. It would be so much more cool if they killed the newborns with skill. The newborns being stronger and the vampire sparkling is stupid, but the worst part about the vampires in this world is that they're made of stone. No, I'm not joking. Vampires being made of stone is the most stupid thing in all of the Twilight lore. Maybe they are only made of stone in the movie so they could get a PG-13 rating. But in the books, we don't even get to see the fight. But I'll get to those another time. Victoria finds Edward and Bella. How, you may ask? I mean, their plan sounded pretty good. Bella's scent was covered up by Jacob. On top of that, she spread her blood all over the woods. So here's how Victoria found them. She tracked Edward's scent because she knew Bella would be with him. This plan is so stupid. They did all of this planning for months, and they did not think to keep Edward away from her? This problem in their plan sounds more like a joke than a plot point. Also, why do we even care about Victoria? She barely did anything after 3 movies. A wolf attacks Victoria's boy toy, and she starts running away. But Edward taunts her with how he killed James. God, that name is still lame. Also, he didn't kill him, it was his family. Her and Edward start fighting, but the newborn takes out the wolf, and Edward can't take on both at the same time, even though he took out a super powerful vampire in the first movie. Bella recalls the story of the native woman who stabbed herself, but Bella does something smart for once and cuts herself. She clearly had a lot of practice at doing that, but this just makes the chief's wife look stupid in comparison. The wolf gets back up and helps take out the newborn. Edward takes out Victoria by biting her head off.
I guess you could say that Edward is a stone-cold killer.
But don't forget, you also need to burn them. So he throws a lighter at her and wow, Jesus! Do vampires sweat oil or something? Still not as stupid as being made of stone. The newborns are all killed, but one because she surrendered. Well, make that 2, because another one is left, and despite being one guy, he attacks the wolves and the vampires all by himself. And the movie for some reason repeats Bella saying Jacob's name from earlier in the movie.
Jacob? Jacob?
Don't know why they didn't just get her to re-record it. Jacob is taken away by the wolves because Alice sees a vision that the Volturi are coming, and they probably won't respect the alliance the Cullens have with the wolves. The Volturi do show up after all the work was already done for them, and they kill the last newborn because, well, I don't know why. They never say. I think this is supposed to show how powerful the vampire mafia is because none of the good vampires will stop them. But they didn't do shit about all the newborns until now. Jacob tries his luck with Bella one more time, and shockingly, it doesn't work. The movie ends with Bella and Edward in a field, and Edward tells Bella that she gives up so much for everyone else. Bella tells him he's wrong and she's 100% right, because what Edward said is the opposite of reality. At least we only have 1 movie left. Wait, no, the last book was turned into 2 movies. No! 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 For those of you who don't know, there was this Strange Things movies based on books we're doing in the early 2000s, where they would split the last book, or sometimes even the first book, into multiple movies. From what I can remember, Harry Potter did this first, then Twilight did it, but worst of all, the shortest Lord of the Rings book, The Hobbit, was split into 3 movies. This is purely done as a cash grab, and it was bad when all of them did it. Sure, you could say that the 5th Harry Potter book should have been split into 2 movies, but Hollywood can also do this amazing thing called making a really long movie. The wedding alone in Twilight Breaking Dawn winds up taking 25% of the movie. Also, Edward's family really shouldn't have planned the wedding during the daytime. I know it's cloudy in this small town, but still, this is an unneeded risk. Wedding invitations are sent out, and Jacob takes off his shirt after reading his. We're only like 50 seconds into this movie, and there's already fan service. I'll give them this, they certainly know their audience. Now I know how women feel whenever they watch a Transformers movie. Bella tries on shoes. Wow, this is riveting. At the Cullens' house, Alice tells Bella to fuck off, but Edward still sneaks into her room because he's a creep. Bella has a nightmare that she marries Edward. Oh god. Oh, and she also kills everybody at the wedding. Edward and Bella do the vows themselves, and they don't just kiss, they make out. Bella's dad says he's gonna get drunk. I'm right there with you, buddy. Laurent's mate also comes to the wedding, and she's not happy that the wolves were invited to the wedding as well, because they killed him. She says he was a good vampire, and just needed one more chance to be good. But what is this leading to? Nothing in this movie. I'm not joking. At the reception, Charlie says if Edward isn't a good husband, he's going to hunt him down until the ends of the earth. People start laughing. I don't know if they're laughing because they think it's a joke or they know he's serious. Jacob shows up, and even though Bella just got married, she runs up to him and hugs him because she just really loves sending out mixed signals. She tells Jacob that she's going to enjoy her honeymoon as a human. And this, of course, pisses off Jacob. Are you for real, Bella? He's literally going to fuck you to death! Also, didn't Edward not want to have sex with Bella because as a human he could kill her by accident? Well, I guess he just changed his mind. Also, even if his cock is super strong, they could easily fix this problem with a simple cowgirl position. But they are all stupid, so of course they wouldn't think of that. Edward and Bella go to a private island to enjoy their honeymoon. There's a pre-sex montage. Gotta say, I've never seen one of those before. Edward and Bella get into bed together. Then they break the fucking bed. The next day, Bella is covered in bruises because of their late night escapades. But of course she likes it. Then she gets morning sickness and misses her period. She also apparently sees a bump on her completely flat stomach. Edward and Bella start packing so they can see Carlisle to learn what the hell is going on because vampires don't have any blood flow, so they really can't make babies. The cleaning lady comes in as they're getting ready to leave. She puts her hand on Bella's stomach and says, "Death." Who is this woman? I ask because the movie doesn't say. Jacob comes to see Bella and she's a lot more pregnant. Apparently the baby blocks out ultrasound and Alice's future-seeing powers, even though Bella is immune to most vampire powers, but not Alice's, but for some reason it doesn't work because fuck you. I get that this movie is trying to add mystery, but all this tells us is that we don't know if the baby is going to be a boy or girl. What we do know for sure is that Bella is dying. And I'll give credit to the makeup department. She does look like she's wasting away. I know I made a joke earlier about Kristen Stewart looking like a zombie, but now she really does look like a zombie. Bella wants to keep it, but Edward and just about everyone else wants her to get rid of it. The only person who wants her to keep her baby is apparently Rosalie. But she hates Bella, so I think she just wants to see her die. Okay, so I know I said earlier that I would be going over the books another time, but remember in the last movie review where I called Edward a cuck? Well, in the book, he asked Jacob to sleep with Bella if she wants kids so badly. No, I'm not joking. Jacob meets up with the other wolves who all want to kill Bella because they came to the conclusion that the baby will be a threat to them and everyone. Why? Because you touch yourself at night, that's why. Now, all the wolves are under the control of the alpha wolf, but Jacob remembers that he's the grandson of the chief, so he's a lone wolf. And he's able to break free of the control of the alpha wolf. Also, two other wolves join him because apparently they want to die. The wolves are planning to attack when it's the right time, but the Cullens haven't been hunting, and they don't keep extra blood in storage because they are stupid. This means they are weaker than normal. I don't understand why they don't just hunt. Do they all really need to be at the house? They also do research on the half-vampire baby by using fucking Yahoo! Bella is dying faster and faster, so she might not even be able to give birth before she dies. But Jacob is like, guys, it's a vampire, right? So maybe we should give it some blood or something? Carlisle grabs some human blood that he had saved. He apparently has human blood in storage, but not animal blood. Bella sips up the blood through a straw, which is way more funny than I think this is supposed to be. Bella comes up with a baby name. If it's a boy, EJ, which stands for Edward Jacob. And if it's a girl, Renesmee. EJ or Renesmee. That's just stupid. Now I get that it was her grandmother's name, but I'm just thinking about how smart Stephenie Meyer must have felt when she came up with this line. This pisses off the baby so much that it bites into Bella's spine. It's time to give birth, but the one vampire who's a doctor is out, getting more blood. Why out of all of them the fucking doctor left? I have no clue. Why are they all so stupid? Rosalie starts to get some bloodlust, so they obviously have to take her out. And Edward starts chewing the baby out. I'm just wondering what's going through Bella's mind. Edward, when I said eat me out, I didn't mean like that. The movie really pushes the PG-13 rating to the max. But they get the baby out. And even better, Bella dies. Edward sticks a giant syringe of his venom into Bella's heart, and he bites her all over for good measure. But it doesn't work.
So Jacob decides he's going to kill that little half-vampire baby. But then he falls in love with it. What the hell? Yes, he falls in love with this CGI baby. Now, this is not the first time a wolf has imprinted on someone underage. Once a wolf imprinted on a 6-year-old, and earlier in this movie, another one imprinted on a 3-year-old. But this is a newborn who's like 11 minutes old. Now, the wolves do wait until they're of age, and I think that's called grooming. I get it's supposed to be a destined lovers kind of thing, but it's still creepy as shit. The wolves attack, but Carlisle makes it back in time to join in on the fight. But because Jacob imprinted on the baby, they can't kill it. It's their most important rule. I think they are just creeped out, because does the rule of not killing someone a wolf has imprinted on still matter if the imprintee is a vampire? Or half in this case? Oh no, this vampire is killing all of us. Wow, that really sucks. Too bad we can't do anything because Kiro has imprinted on them.
Bella starts healing up and, oh gosh, she looks like a blow-up doll. And then she wakes up. The end of part 1. We only got one more movie to go, and this really didn't need to be split into 2 parts. So little happens and it's so boring. We do get an after credits scene, but it doesn't really add much. Just that the Volturi might actually do something for once. The last movie, Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2, is actually the second best one. The first movie was objectively the best, but it was still pretty bad. The other movies just kept on getting worse and worse and more boring. But this one actually has some fun stuff. That being said, this movie really did clear house at the Razzies, getting the Worst Picture of the Year award, Worst Actress for Kristen Stewart, Worst Supporting Actor for the guy who fell in love with a fucking baby. Ew. The Jacob and Renesmee couple also won Best Couple on Screen award. Ew. It also got the Worst Director Award, Worst Sequel Award, and the Worst Cast Award. The movie starts right where the first one left off, with Bella waking up, and now she can zoom in on things. I wasn't aware that was a vampire power until now, but what did I expect? Bella almost crushes Edward with a hug. Remember, she's a newborn, so she's going to be stronger than normal vampires for the next year. She has now become a full Mary Sue. Bella and Edward go out hunting for some animal blood, but some mountain climber miles away scrapes his knee. So Bella somehow smells his blood, even though it doesn't matter how good of a sense of smell she has, there's no way she could smell him from this distance. Scent is created by molecules slowly coming off an object. Scent doesn't travel this fast. She almost fucking kills him. But Edward stops her, so she decides to end her undead life by jumping off a cliff. Just kidding. She survives because vampires are way more powerful in this movie than all the others. She goes home to see her baby after hunting, and yes, the baby is CGI. And really bad CGI at that. This is the second worst CGI baby I think I've seen since Son of the Mask. But believe it or not, they did make a 60-something pound animatronic baby. You thought the CGI baby looked bad? Well, the animatronic baby is scary as hell. Its nickname was Chuck Esme, and I'm not gonna lie, I kind of wish they left it in. Also, the baby has the power to share its memory with people. Also, this somehow works on Bella even though she's immune to vampire abilities. Granted, this could be explained away by having the power work on her because she's her baby, but the movie doesn't explain that. Bella finds out that Jacob imprinted on her daughter, and she takes it about as well as any mother would. We also get probably the best line in all the movies.
It was Nessie who wanted me there.
Nessie? You nicknamed my daughter after the Loch Ness Monster?
That's stupid. You're stupid. Stop being stupid.
Turns out Bella no longer feels anything for Jacob because she was never in love with him at all. It was her unfertilized egg making her feel love for him. Everyone in Bella's hometown thinks she's dead. This means the Cullens have to leave for the second time. But Jacob doesn't want them to leave because he's into dat baby. So he finds Bella's dad and starts stripping. Then he turns into a wolf. Edward is not happy about this.
He basically tells Jacob, "How dare you tell a man his daughter isn't dead? Have you for 1 second thought about what Bella wants? Like everyone else in the world does?" The story is all about what Bella wants, not about what her dad wants, or about what the rest of her family wants, and also some of her friends. It's only about Bella and no one else. Speaking of Bella's dad, before she sees him, she needs to learn how to act like a normal girl. By that, I don't mean she has to act like a real person for once in her life. No, she has to learn how to walk normal and how to blink normal, because now that she's a vampire, she does everything really fast, even though we were never shown anything like this from the other newborns. Bella's dad complains about Jacob turning into a wolf. Let's hope he never hears about DeviantArt. Bella shows her dad their daughter, and she says it's a kid that Edward and her adopted. But he isn't fooled by it because he knows it's a CGI baby. Oh god, its head isn't even fully attached to its body. Renesmee is growing really fast because she's a half vampire. But she really should age slower and not faster, but at this point I stopped caring. Bella is enjoying her new life as a vampire, never sleeping or going to school or work, just like everybody else during the pandemic. They are playing out in the snow, but do you remember the blonde vampire girl from the last movie, Laurent's mate? Well, she sees the half vampire child and runs to tell on Bella. You see, vampires can't turn children because children are uncontrollable, and once you turn someone into a vampire, they're stuck at that age. Something like this can get the vampire world exposed, so if you're a vampire and you turn a child, you'll be executed. Also in the flashback about this, we get this fucking phenomenal scene where Dakota Fanning throws a fucking child into the fire. Alice sees a vision that the Volturi are coming or something. This means that the Cullens have to gather other vampires to testify that she is a half vampire and not just a vampire child. So you know how vampires have unique abilities like being stronger than other vampires, being faster than other vampires, seeing the future and reading minds? Well, now the powers go off the wall at this point. There's a vampire that can shock people and another one who can control all 4 elements, just like the Avatar. They gather about 27.5 vampires along with a few wolves to join them in their fight. But the Volturi still outnumber them by a lot, and they also have a lot of superpowers as well. But Bella, for once in her life, is useful, because now that she's a vampire, she can make shields, making vampires immune to other vampire powers. So here's how the vampire's powers work. You see, humans have powers themselves, kind of, but when they're turned into vampires, they really have superpowers. Edward, when he was human, could tell what people were thinking, and now that he's a vampire, he can read minds. Alice, when she was a human, was really good with intuition, and when she got turned, she can now see the future. How the hell does controlling the 4 elements have anything to do with being a human? I have no clue! As a human, Bella was immune to vampire powers, and now that she's a vampire herself, she can make shields for others. Bella also learns how to put shields on people with almost no training, but she's a Mary Sue, so I saw that coming. Some fake IDs are made for Jacob and Nessie, aka Renesmee. Not sure I would trust someone who imprinted on my daughter to be their guardian, but okay. Also on Jacob's ID, it says his name is Jacob Wolf. At least his first name isn't Kiro. The big battle is about to start, and none of them brought any weapons. I know vampires are like really strong and fast, but guns and explosives would be still useful. It's not that hard to make a homemade mine, so why not use Alice's future seeing powers to put up a bunch of landmines as to where the Volturi will be standing? How cool would it be if Bella's dad just showed up in his cop car with a ton of guns? Also, all these vampires and all these werewolves are risking their lives just to protect Bella. Edward shows Aro his thoughts to prove that his daughter isn't a vampire and is only half. Aro asks to see the child and he makes the best laugh of all time. Laurent's mate is fucking killed for her mistake, even though it seems like a pretty understandable mistake that anyone could have made. Also, it was kind of pointless to still have her even in the last movie, because all she did was tell the Volturi about Bella's daughter. Any vampire could have done that. She didn't have to be Laurent's mate. But Aro is still going to attack because he doesn't know what the child will grow up into. But then Alice shows up just in time to show Aro a vision that the child will not be
be a threat. Unfortunately, Aro is not willing to change his mind, and his guards take Alice. Carlisle runs at him in a blind rage, and he's decapitated? Now, some of you who've seen the movies or watched some YouTube reviews about it, or if you basically know anything about Twilight, you already know about the big stupid twist, but I'm not going to spoil it quite yet for the people who don't know, but we'll be getting into it later. The Battle of the Vampires is now on. In most movies, this fight would just be okay, but after 4 movies of basically nothing, it's the most amazing fight of all time. Yeah, sure, the effects are over the top, and it's a little hard to tell what's going on, but at least they aren't just staring at one another or trying on shoes. I think my favorite part of the fight is when the 4 elemental vampire dude cracks open the earth, and Bella kicks one of the vampires into it, doing the "This is Sparta" Spartan kick meme. But yes, the full badass fight was nothing more than a dream. We get something cool, and it's fake. But at the same time, I don't hate the directors and writers for doing this. They made a change from the book and still kept faithful to it. The people who worked on this movie really didn't have much to work with, but they did the best they could to give us something kind of cool. One of the good vampires from the Amazon walks up to Aro and tells him that he's only half vampire, and he ain't so bad. He eats both human food and blood, which is technically a human food to some people. He also aged really fast for 7 years until he was an adult, then he just stopped. So the Volturi decide to leave, and they run faster than any vampire up to this point has ever run in any of these movies. It's really strange. Good luck to anyone who wants to power scale this verse. We get one last romantic staring scene of Edward and Bella in the same fucking field. And even though they're in the sun, they don't sparkle. But Bella can now turn off her shield to let Edward read her mind. Also, in 7 years, Jacob ends up with their daughter Renesmee. Ew. And the credits go on for 12 fucking minutes! So, after watching all 5 Twilight movies, what did I learn? What did I gain? And why did I do this to myself? Well, I learned nothing, absolutely nothing at all about Bella, other than the fact that she's a blank slate for teenage girls to project themselves onto. I think Bella might actually be the most zero-dimensional character of all time. The other characters are not much better. Jacob is a groomer who sexually assaulted at least one woman, and he has anger problems. Edward has been a virgin longer than anyone else in all of history, and I'm not surprised at all by that because he acts like a weirdo. The other characters are just there, and the villains are just as bland as white bread. The world building is all over the place, and I can't understand why anyone likes it. Twilight is bad, but it's also amazing in its own way. Let me explain. The fact that a movie, let alone 5 were made, just astounds me. This movie has hardcore fans, along with hardcore haters. And the fact that 10 years later we are still talking about it really says something. These movies have made so much discourse. In fact, I don't think any other movie aside from maybe The Last Jedi has done that. I'm gonna be serious here. I'm actually happy I did watch all 5 Twilight movies. I will never understand why anyone unironically likes these movies, but I did have fun ripping into them. Hey guys, sorry this video took so long to come out. I really thought this would end up being a lot longer than it ended up being, but my boss made me work a lot these last couple of days, and the heat really did get to me. Whenever I come home from work or the gym, I'm just too pooped to work on a video. And on top of everything else, I got sick for a week. A few other things in my life went wrong, and I just had to take some time off the internet because I haven't taken a break in, like, forever. But now that I finally have a chance to come back, I just really wanted to make this video that I've been planning on making ever since I even started on YouTube. But too many people have already done reviews of Twilight, and a lot of them did a better job than, well, I ever could. But from what I've seen, no one did a review of all the movies in just one video. I really thought this video was gonna come out to being like 2 hours long, but as you can clearly see, it didn't. But now that I'm scripting my videos, I can work on much longer videos than I used to. But unfortunately, scripted videos take a lot longer to make, but I know in the future I'm going to get faster at it. I just really want to start stepping up my game on YouTube, and I think making scripted videos is the best way to go about that. Anyways, I have received a lot of requests to talk about Quantum TV, and that's going to be in my next video. See you guys then.